This early morning, let's explore, let's explore an explanation of an excerpt from Yongjie Song of Enlightenment. And then let's meditate. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, brought to you by the kind people who help support this channel on Patreon. This early morning, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two, but first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Good news. If at any point, any time at all during this early morning live stream, you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Please chant with me. The awakened doesn't take two. The awakened one does not seek the truth, does not cut off delusion. Truth and delusion are both vacant and without form, but this no form is neither empty nor not empty. It is the truly real form of the Tathagata. So we're going to have to cut through some nomenclature. The awakened one does not seek truth, does not cut off delusion. So why is that? Truth and delusion are both vacant and without form. So there is a non-duality. So let's pretend I was holding a Waterford crystal goblet and a tarantula. They look quite different, but if I was to hold them over my head and drop one and then the other upon a hardwood floor, they would each of them shatter. Therefore, the fragility is the common denominator that unites both a Waterford crystal goblet and a tarantula, of all things. So we could play games with words and say, in their fragility, from a certain point of view, the goblet and the spider are non-dual. That's just a logical statement. Therefore, if truth can feel, so let's pretend we notice truth as we breathe in. As we relax into our exhalation, that exact same truth could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. What is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky and a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is most certainly non-graspable to the touch? Similarly, whatever delusion we notice during our in-breath, once we physically relax and mentally release during our exhalation, that exact same delusion could feel as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Therefore, it could be argued that if both truth and delusion share a non-graspable nature, they are not two. That's so that non-duality is a bit of a mind stretcher. So what do we do with that? But this no form is neither empty nor not empty. It is only real form of the Tathagata. So the South Indian Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna taught the two truths, where things are, and these are kind of, we're going to deal with triple negatives. So emptiness is a negative, neither empty is a double negative, nor or not, so nor not empty. It's a triple negative. It's supposed to be confusing. And the reason it's in there is because people get confused. They tie themselves up into pseudo-intellectual knots. Nagarjuna taught the two truths, conventional and ultimate, perception and release. Just as a one-winged bird cannot take to the skies, similarly, there is no freedom, there is no liberation with only mindfulness or only meditation. And for that matter, there is no life with only inhalation or only exhalation. We need both inhalation and exhalation if we want to live. We need both mindfulness and meditation if we are to experience freedom from the tyranny of our primal survival drives. Survival drives are great, they're necessary, but they're better advisors than they are tyrants. When our choices and utterances and deeds are slaves to every impulse of our primal survival drives, life becomes very, very difficult. When, however, because of successful meditation, our choices and utterances and deeds flow from a place of centered spontaneity, then life becomes much more free, much more beautiful, much more fulfilling. We cannot just cross our arms and argue with our primal drives. You aren't real, you're empty, because that can be said about everything we can perceive. Therefore, the paradox of appearing yet void, real yet non-real, is something we experience with every breath. There was a myth, it's still popular. There is a myth in certain Buddhist circles that once, we become enlightened, we become like these metaphysical superheroes with a body of light that experiences only bliss, that can prance about like Neo in the Matrix, and that all our minds are unified in one entity. And that is what we call a flight of fancy. That's what happens when you take metaphors and interpret them as literal statements, which may be an amusing parlor trick, but makes for some terrible spiritual practice. So to correct it, or basically to throw a brick through the plate glass window of that misconception, the author of this text, Jigme, it sounds like I'm speaking backwards, I'm sorry. But the author of this text said, the true form of a Buddha is not this comic book character. True form of Buddha is just anybody that can be perceived as we breathe in and relatively released as we exhale. All bodies are subject to the two truths. A Buddha has simply mastered that technique. And by mastering technique doesn't mean it simply means they're able to practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. But, you might say, Zen Master Dogen taught that meditation is enlightenment, and that's what we call a figure of speech. Practicing the Eightfold Path is liberation. Mastering the Eightfold Path is enlightenment. So, let's tie this up in a big red bow. We are allowed to perceive the external and the internal, the physical and the mental, the pleasurable and the painful, the interesting and the boring, the glorious and the grotesque. An ugly perception does not a spiritual failure make. Now let us turn our, if you've just joined in, welcome aboard. If at any point during this early morning's live stream, you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type that question in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. We turn our attention now to this morning's practice text, or I should say the latest iteration of this morning's practice text. Just like 5 or 6 books placed upon a lengthy shelf held in place by two bookends, similarly, our main course, our meditation, is going to be propped up by a very brief opening chant and a very brief closing chant. These chants exercise the neural pathways responsible for empathy and enthusiasm. Please join me. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. So this isn't telling us we need to stomp about and knock on people's doors on Saturday mornings when they're sleeping and act like we're selling people Buddha. No. All this is saying is, may my efforts to meditate be fueled by love. Let's continue. 2 more repetitions. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. We come now to mindfulness and meditation, which are known by many names, including Zen, Chan, Dhyana, Mahamudra, Hatha Yoga, Dzogchen, and Trek Show's Slice Through. Despite the grandiosity of the names, these techniques are really, really easy. So let's see if I can get this explanation down to 4 minutes. That would be pretty cool. We can think of meditation in terms of body and breathing and mind. Physically, merely emulate this photograph of a Buddha statue. When it comes to breathing, what you'll want to do is keep your inhalation shorter and sharper, and your exhalation longer and softer. Now we come to the mind. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. For every inhalation is wired to access our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved not to concentrate, but to notice, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. We could notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. What are we to do with all the stuff that we notice? Fortunately, during our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the hyphenated verb relaxing. Why would we do that? Every exhalation is wired to access our parasympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to both physically relax and mentally release. Meditation is just that easy. Now, on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you'll notice the phrase, first collection of 17 sets of 17 rounds. And this is when it gets a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you how to count 17 sets of 17 rounds on just 8 fingers and 2 thumbs. So first things first. What I'm going to do is adjust this. So we lay one hand in our lap, a right hand in our lap, palm up, and upon that, our left palm. And in the left palm, not only can we count to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we can count to 16 because we have 3 sets of creases on each finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, I strongly urge you to advance your thumb only during the inhalation. Now that we know how to count to 16, what is 16 rounds? How do we get to the 17th? And we'll answer that in a minute. If we count 16 rounds on our left hand, then it makes sense that logically we could count 16 sets of 16 rounds on our right hand. First set of 16, second set of 16, third set of 16, and so forth. Well, that's cool. Now we've got the idea of rounds and sets. That's peachy keen, but they're limited by the number of creases and tips. That only gets us to 16. So now we get into some spooky stuff. It's been found by some that we can access our channels, winds, and drops by what we do with our fingers. I found it useful to occasionally touch the tip of my right index finger to the knuckle at the base of my left index finger, thusly. That gives us our first set of 16 and our first round of breathing. Now, this is going to sound really weird, but you can just follow along with me, and I assure you, if you follow along with me once every 12 hours, after a week or so, you'll get it. Let's meditate. Remember the meditation. This relaxing. And now place the tip of my right thumb on the first set of creases of my right little finger. I now rest the tip, not the tip, but the knuckle at the base of my left index finger on the tip of my right index finger. So in the in-breath, we silently and mentally recite the word this. During the out-breath, we silently and mentally recite the hyphenated verb relaxing. So we're going to shift strategies. Instead of touching the tip of our index finger to the knuckle of the base of our left index finger, we're shifting gears now to our right middle finger. So we're going to start by returning the tip of the right thumb to the first set of creases at the base of our right little finger. Lifting the right middle finger, touching its tip to the great knuckle at the base of the left middle finger. And of course, it would be very nice if these alerts weren't going off. So I shall put this in do not disturb mode. let us seal our practice with a bit of chanting. May everyone be free from suffering. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You can share it with a friend. You could even help to support this channel on Patreon. Whether you do or whether you don't, I still intend to lead this morning's, this mid-morning meditation in approximately 2 hours. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.